Chris Van Vliet here with Zach Gowen. It's great to see you wrestling again, Zach.
Thank you very much. It's great to be wrestling. I apologize for being a little sweaty and a little out of it. I just had a match. Obviously you saw some traumatic events transpired, so I apologize if I'm a little spacey right now. But it's great to be here. Thank you for the interest in interviewing me, for sure.
Yeah, we're talking about Greg Iron, who, our thoughts and prayers are with him. He was just taken away in an ambulance. I hope he's okay.
Yeah, he took a power bomb and then he didn't get back up, and he was out cold for close to 5 minutes. And it was right in front of me, and that was probably the scariest thing I've ever seen. And I hope he's okay. Yeah. Definitely thoughts and prayers for sure.
Absolutely. Zach, it makes me feel really old to say that it's 9 years ago that you made your debut in WWE. It's good to see you wrestling again, though.
Thank you. It's great to be wrestling. Wrestling was my foundation as a child. It's what I escaped into. Some kids like to get into music or movies or whatever it is, or different kinds of sports. Mine was professional wrestling. And so it was always a childhood dream to step into that ring, and by the grace of God, I've been able to do it for the past close to 10 years now.
You may be one of the few wrestlers who, with less than a year experience, you got the call to go up to the bigs, to go to the WWE. Can you kind of walk me through how that process happened, how you went from starting out training to finally making your WWE debut?
Sure, it happened like that, man. Most guys take 7, 8, 9, 10 years for WWE to even take a look at them. But for those who don't know, I lost my leg to cancer when I was 8 years old, and I was the first one-legged professional wrestler. And I think with that gimmick and that hook, I caught WWE's eye very, very early in my career, and it took off from there.
And you weren't debuting in squash matches. You debuted with Mr. America, who of course is Hulk Hogan, and you also debuted with Rowdy Roddy Piper in the ring as well. Talk about that.
Well, not only two wrestling legends, but two cultural icons.
Sure.
These two gentlemen, along with Vince, were staples of my whole life. I felt that I knew them because they were in my living room every week, and to actually be in the ring with them, not only be in the ring with them, but to make my debut on national television for WWE with those guys was just amazing and overwhelming and awesome, all at once.
You also had a match of vengeance with Vince McMahon. Sure. Tell me what it's like to be in the ring with the boss.
It was intimidating because I didn't want to hurt him.
You didn't want to hurt him.
I didn't want to hurt him because he's the boss, right? But throughout the match, he kept yelling at me to hit him harder, which I was scared that I wasn't hitting him hard enough. So it ended up, towards the end, I was just beating him as hard as I could, and he ended up getting busted open, and blood was flying everywhere. And of course, I was fearful of losing my job at the time. But all in all, it was a once in a lifetime experience. How many wrestlers can say they wrestled Vince? Maybe like five or six guys, and I happen to be one of them. And so I'm forever grateful to the WWE and for Vince for allowing that to happen.
Speaking of Vince McMahon, there was an angle you did with Brock Lesnar, and wrestling fans will remember you being in a wheelchair with a cast on your leg, and Brock Lesnar, eventually pushing you down a set of steps. And Vince McMahon basically says to you, "Are you regretting signing that WWE contract now?" And maybe it wasn't that moment, but was there any moment at all during your WWE career where you did regret signing that contract?
Not during my career. Maybe after I got fired from WWE, I was really angry and bitter for a long time. I felt like, they picked me off the street basically, and they took what they had from me, and then they tossed me aside. But honestly, as I grew up and as I matured and had a different perspective on things, I realized that was my own thinking. They were just doing what's good for business, and I have no problems with that at all. At the time, though, at 19, 20 years old, I wasn't emotionally capable of handling that type of situation. And so do I have any regrets? No, I'm forever grateful to be a part of the business and to be part of WWE. Sometimes I wish it would happen a little later in my career.
You did an interview with your hometown paper, and you said that one of the things that happened during your WWE career is you let your ego get in the way. Was there one specific moment, or was there something backstage or anything that happened that really stands out?
No, it was just my general attitude at the time. I didn't know how to handle myself as a professional. You know, I was a 20-year-old kid. Literally 2 weeks before, I was bagging groceries at the local fruit market. You know, and with all the insecurities I had going into WWE, you know, from my childhood, being picked on, having one leg, and feeling different, I always felt like I wasn't good enough to be there, and so. So I acted out on those, where I overcompensated, and I guess you could say, I acted like I had an ego. But in fact, what was going on inside of me was the exact opposite.
Like, did the ego come out where there were other guys backstage that didn't like you?
Oh yeah, I wasn't liked at all. I wasn't liked at all backstage, and the thing is, I can't blame those guys, because if somebody like me came along now, I probably wouldn't like them very much either. But that's just what it was. It's not good or bad. It just is. You know, that's certainly the past, and I've come to terms with it. And you know, of course, I've moved on, and you know, I'm grateful for every situation, because it leads to, you know, where I am now, which is, you know, I've never been healthier mentally, physically, spiritually. So it's all good.
We're glad to hear that. Your last match in the ring was against Tajiri in WWE, and you got knocked out. And then it was a couple months later that your release was announced. Can you kind of walk us through how WWE handles releases?
I think they handled mine a little differently. I wasn't sure what was going on internally in the organization, but I sat at home for a few months, and then I got a call, and they told me they had a plane ticket for me to go to Titan Towers out in Stamford, and so I flew out there, and Jim Ross sat me down, and Jim Ross was the one who broke the news to me, and they flew me back, and that was it.
I mean, are you sitting there in front of Jim Ross, and are you crying at this moment?
No, I see. That's a good question. It was so long ago. I remember Jim Ross explaining to me that I need to go, you know, on the road in the independents, and kind of find myself and kind of mature as a man, which was everything I agreed, you know, with him. Because the general feeling towards the end was, it was obvious that the locker room didn't want me there. So my thought is, if you don't want me there, I don't want to be there. Sure. And so it was fine. I was perfectly fine with them firing me at the time.
I mean, and then after your release, reports came out about drug use, and now you're very open to speak about that. But did your drug use have anything to do with your release, or WWE not wanting you around anymore?
I think that might have amplified it or accelerated it. I think I was going to go down the path I went down, regardless of WWE or not. It was, you know, as I continue on in my recovery, I learn more and more about myself, which is an amazing thing. But the seeds for my addictions were planted long before WWE.
Was there one moment? I mean, you're doing great now.
Oh, thank you.
Was there one moment where you said, "I've got to kick this. This isn't the way I can live anymore"?
Absolutely, and that's when I turned the corner, because for 2 years before I finally stopped, I tried every month for 2 years. I would try every month to kick it on my own. And I'd go to my friend's house, and I'd sweat it out for days there, and I would just be completely sick and miserable. And I would finally, you know, detox all the drugs out of my system. But then invariably, I would always go back. Whether it was in a week or 2 weeks, I couldn't stand to face life on life's terms through sober eyes. It was too painful for me. And it got to the point where I didn't care anymore. I didn't care if I lived, if I died. I just didn't want to feel how I felt. And so it was at that point that I came open to my parents. And they're the ones who suggested that I call WWE, because WWE has the wellness policy, where they'll take care of former talent and current talent as well, which is, I can honestly say, that saved my life. That planted the seeds of my recovery, which, you know, for the past 2 years and some change, you know, has led up to this moment. So I can't say enough about what they did for me.
If we look at your WWE career as a whole, what is your highest high, and what do you think was your lowest low?
My WWE career, I'd say the highest high was that debut match when I pinned the Big Show. That was amazing. There weren't really many lows. They treated me incredibly well. I wrestled, you know, I was on the road with them. I wrestled Matt Hardy every night. I wrestled Vince, you know, Big Show. I wrestled Brock. I wrestled with Kurt Angle. You know, all these amazing talents, and I was able to learn from them. Also, the agents at the time, you know, that WOIO was there. I think he's still there. And he helped me out a lot. Michael P.S. Hayes, you know, these legends that will freely share their knowledge with a young talent that's just, it's just an amazing experience.
So are we going to see you back in a WWE ring?
Maybe. I don't know.
Just waiting for that phone call?
I don't know. That's not.
And you're only 29.
I'm 29 years old, but the thing about it is I kind of live one day at a time. I try not to plan too far into the future because then I start getting mixed up. So if I live today right and I do what I'm supposed to do today and I give thanks and I help people out, then things kind of happen to fall into place for me. In the past 2 years, I've gotten into stunts and movies, which I'm doing. I'm doing inspirational speaking, which is the most spiritually fulfilling thing I could ever do. To be able to connect with these kids and different people going through various difficulties, it's just absolutely amazing. So there's other options and avenues out there. I just know if I keep doing what I'm doing, the right things will happen for me.
Well, I mean, you are an inspiration, and we wish you the best of luck. So, Zach, appreciate your time.
Excellent interview.
Thank you.
Thank you.